Good evening and welcome to this Yoga with Jim Tarrant, who apparently is this cardiganed gentleman. Nice to see nice to see you. We'll start standing, if you don't mind. If it's tricky standing, don't forget you can use a chair with the back of the chair facing towards you and the seat facing away. And you can use that for all the standing poses. It's very helpful. We're going to stand with the feet apart, either holding the chair or arms by your sides. Just a good tip, just to mention, it's great to hold shopping bags filled with shopping of the same weight. But I know you haven't got them now. It's just for, another time. Because as you feel the outer body go down, you can feel the inner body go up. But you can still imagine that. You can imagine that. The arms are drawing down as if you're holding heavy bags. And the spine draws up as if you're pushing up through the crown of the head. And of course, there are natural meanderings of the body. It meanders this way and meanders that way. And, the word meander has been selected so that, hopefully it brings up images of a meandering river, stream, with a sort of carefree vibration. So this is what I call Kayotsaga. Kayotsaga means casting off the body. Utsaga means to throw it off. But, in the sense of our attachment to ideas and views and opinions about the body, whether it's old or young, fit or unfit, male or female, whatever other labels we give it, attractive, unattractive, neutral, we're casting that off. Because the body doesn't exist. In the sense that there isn't a thing that's permanent and never changes, that exists separate or autonomous from its surroundings, for example, from gravity or from air pressure. Your body would look very different if there was no air pressure in the room. Let your arms raise up if you want, and then stretch up to wherever they come to. And the stretching up part, if you're someone who finds balance difficult at this point, you can move around the chair and sit on it and raise your arms up like that. So that's another option. The roots of the neck are soft. The tummy has light tone. The pelvic floor is something we find. We tune in on. We find it. And then bring the arms down again and the hands to the heart center. Take deep breaths, jaw soft, eyes soft, stepping the feet apart. Now here, chair users, if there is anyone using a chair, you can put that underneath your thigh. And as you bend your knee, you rest your leg on the chair or on a block on the chair. And that makes it much easier. Elbow down. Alternatively, you can have the chair, a chair ahead of you. And some of you, of course, not using a chair at all. So that's, those instructions are only relevant if you are. So either the bum on a chair or on a block on a chair or a chair supporting you in front, or just as we are, the option to raise the top arm up and over, Parshva Konasana, stretching through to the back leg, breathing through the nose, looking for softness that is in the mind, as it were. The mind is soft and calm in the breath and in the body. Softness. So softness and flow go together. We know if we're uptight, if we're tense, if we're worried, if we're angry, the body tenses up and it obstructs the flow of blood. So it causes high blood pressure, or in some cases, low blood pressure. Okay, arm down, palm down. So we've got to be soft when we practice yoga and come up. Feet face forwards. Obviously, you can work with the chair. You can have it in front of you or bring the feet together. We can even have two chairs on the go. And then front foot and leg turns out. Some of these poses you can even do lying down, which is good to know, isn't it? Energy will stretch into the back leg as you bend the front knee. Maybe the thighs coming to a chair, or maybe you're holding onto a chair. Then the elbow down, arm up. Breathe through your nose, soft eyes. Stretch up and over. Deep, honest, natural, organic breaths, plural. Looking up under the armpit, optionally. That's optional. But essentially what we're doing, which is not optional really if we're going to practice yoga, is feeling energy spreading everywhere. The Vyana Vayu, the everywhere energy. Vyana Vayu. Okay, arm down, push into the leg, come up on the inhalation. Good job. Turn the feet to face front. Again, if you've got a chair, the seat of the chair can be facing towards you, hands on the hips, feet facing forwards, and in fact, toes can turn in. Another way of saying the same thing is to say heels turn out. Repeatedly spread the little toes. And actually that's like a sort of riddle. So that if you can solve that riddle, how do I spread the little toes? Then you will enter into yoga. Because to extend the little toes, one has to practice the little axiom, calmness, conditions, connection. Inhale, lift up. Exhale, fold over, hinge from the hip joints. Hands on the chair, or hands on the floor, or elbows on the floor for some whose pelvises just keep moving. It's not important how close your head gets to the floor. It is important to honor the goddess channel. So to keep open along the front of the body. And that will be different for different people. So if the hamstrings are very mobile, perhaps you stretch very regularly, then the pelvis will tilt because the pelvis is attached to the hamstring. So if they've got mobility and hydration, the pelvis will tilt and your spine follows the pelvis, whatever angle it comes to. The shorthand way of saying that is you keep your spine and pelvis in the same alignment that they would be if you were standing up, not collapsing the chest, not rounding the back. And so for some, it's low down, for some, it's high up, for some, it's on a chair. What matters is that we're all honoring the goddess channel. Right? This pose, Prasrita Padottanasana, is inexhaustible. The balance between inner and outer ankle, between front and back foot, between calf and shin, between the back of the knee and the front of the knee, etc., on and on, through lots of different movements that create absorption. It's endless. Fingertips, all the way up when you're ready, and walk your feet towards each other. Here's a treat straight away. Now, I'm going to recommend blocks, and 4 if you've got them. And I know not everyone has 4 at home, but 2 is okay. So this is long side to long side. There can be a gap between them. That's fine. And placed, as I say, long side to long side rather than, this is short end to short end. This is long side to long side. That's what we want, long side to long side, with a little gap between them. And perhaps if you've got the 4, another layer, but it doesn't matter if you don't. And then it's cross-legged on the blocks. Some blocks aren't, these are the best kind of blocks, these chip foam blocks. They're the original and the best because they don't slip as much, simply because of the material they're made in with. But anyway, if you do slip, you can fold the end of your yoga mat if your feet don't feel grippy. Your fingers face forwards, your buttocks tuck under towards the heels. You come down and you tuck under again and you lay on your back. And that's all. When I say that's all, we take a breath, or 2 or 3 or 4. And if you do have enough blocks, it really is, it makes the more blocks, well, not exponentially, but if you have more height, it releases the back more, which we like, of course. The hands can be on the bottom ribs or upper chest, or Jim's favorite, over the head and moving the shoulder blades multiple times. Breathing through the nose. Lower back soft, jaw soft, tongue soft, throat soft, brain soft. An expressive sense of giving. It's really important that, without incorporating the breath and really recognizing the importance of giving to the breath, then we're not practicing yoga. And so we won't get the benefits of yoga. You know, if you don't take the medicine, it's not surprising if it doesn't work. So that's how it is with yoga. The medicine is giving to the breath. You know, this is listening, responding. Cross the legs the other way when you're ready. So the other leg goes in front. And breathing through the nose. Again, movements of the arms may well help. They might be helpful. Breath expressive, neck relaxed. Supta means supine, means laying down. Sukha, su is good, ka is space. And then we sort of ice the cake of the name with the word asana, which gradually over time in certain texts since the 11th century can mean, in those certain texts after that time period, posture. So what we're learning is giving. What we're learning is how to give. And of course, giving and trust are intimately connected. But we don't have to trust in a point of view, or even in a person, or even in a group, a social group. We simply trust in the moment itself. The moment itself has all the knowledge we need about the moment itself. So breath, 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 breath. And then you come back to the breath. Notice if the mind comes off the breath, or there's some sort of separation between the mind and the breath, it's because the mind has drifted off with a thought about the future, thought about the past. Let's bring the legs back together. Bring the feet onto your blocks. If you've got 4 or 2, if you haven't. And just take a couple of deep breaths on your back. Right. Now, my fault. I should have said before, you might need a belt, right? Because we're going to raise a leg up. And if you don't have short legs and long arms, it may be that your foot is like, go and get it. So this is where you use a belt. If you haven't got a belt, you can use a tie or a dressing gown belt or a sock. But we're going to take the foot directly, or probably more likely with a belt, and simply hold it there. The arms should be straight. So if you're using a belt, walk up the belt until your arms are straight, but at the same time, give enough length on the belt that your leg can be straight too. The investigation is one where we feel through subtle movements, energy flowing or not flowing, by feeling whether the breath is flowing or not. So if you go to, say, the back of the knee and your breath is flowing and you allow it to flow, so will the tissue on the back of the knee. It won't be hard, it won't be gripping. And of course, the mind will also not be hard or gripping. Okay, groovy, as we like to say in yoga. Bring that foot down, take a breath. Hopefully you're taking some deep breaths, some expressive breaths even. Eyes soft, brain soft, and then up goes the other leg when you're ready. Same thing, of course. And similarly, take that belt, almost certainly using a belt, unless you've got that quite unique anatomical disposition of very long arms and very short legs. But otherwise the belt, and taking breaths like that. Pretty simple, actually, pretty simple. Eyes are soft, brain is soft, throat is soft, neck is soft. Lower back is soft. And the breaths are expressive and the breaths are natural. Okay. Release that leg when you're ready. Hands underneath the head. I'll just adjust this microphone. Hands underneath the head, fingers interlaced. It's natural to want to draw 2 or 3 deep breaths. And of course, if you do, it's going to stretch muscles like the ring of muscles that surrounds the diaphragm. And those ring of muscles, like any other muscle group, are almost certainly arrested by patterns or habits, assumptions, you could say, that we have about ourselves and the world. We all have assumptions. We wake up in the morning, we don't know who we are for a second, and then we run all our assumptions. I'm male, I'm female, I'm young, I'm old, I'm healthy, I'm unhealthy. This is my name. This is my, my backstory. These were my partners I've had. And this is, we have this sort of self that we generate out of a few ideas. And that arrests the body. But if you and me, if we stretch muscles, then through the breath, then the patterns in the muscles are challenged. And it gives an opportunity for nadi shodhana, nerve cleansing. Let's lift the feet up now and let the lower back just, I often think it sort of kisses the floor, the back, like a M-W-A-H, a mwah kind of kiss. Lift up your head, lower back close to the floor, breathing through the nose. Natural, expressive, organic, meditative. So it's not forceful, but it's not lazy either. It's interested, it's soft, it's attentive, it's awake, it's meditative. Extend one leg to about 45 degrees, but it could be higher up. Higher up might make it easier on your back if your back's at all tight. So play with it. And it can, of course, oscillate too between various heights options. But we definitely want the lower back to be peaceful and pushed into the floor. Retract that leg and the same with the other when you're ready. Similarly, play with the height. Of course, it does work the abdominals, but working the abdominals still should be and is an intelligent flow of a sensation. Bring that leg back, head down, feet down. Everyone takes a deep breath in, followed by the old classic deep breath out. You know how it goes with the breath, in and out and in and out. And it's just, the great thing about the breath is it's selfless. And the difficult thing about self is it's a construct that limits the reality of who we really are, blinds us to the reality of who we really are because we're fixating, we're myopic, you could say, on this self, which we make out of whatever's arising in consciousness at this moment, usually, and we call that self or not self. Bird sings, we say, it's, maybe we say that's self, or we don't even think about it, and it is self. Because it's in us, it's like I feel it in my heart, or we, think of it as something separate. Now flex the hips, and we're going to wrap the legs around each other. So take one leg straight up like that. That's it. The other one, still bent, moves a little away from you as the straight one moves towards you. Then you can do-si-do them, one behind, one in front. And then it's a simple case of swapping which one is bent and which one is straight. And if you're slow and calm, sometimes it's possible to hook the toes around. Don't force it. Doesn't matter. Keep the legs flexed up, pull them towards you, and breathe through the nose. Jaw soft, eyes soft, throat soft, brain soft, tongue soft, etc. Okay. And then release and repeat the other way. So one leg straight, one leg bent, one behind, one in front, one bends and one straightens, and then they wrap around. It's going to be much easier to get some sort of wrap around if you cross them over high up, right? That is to say, right at the top of the thigh. Again, keep the lower back close to the floor by bringing the legs towards you. That will make your abdomen work. The abdomen is lazy but capable. The lower back is willing but not so capable. Great. Okay, release. Place your feet down, take a deep breath in, and follow it with, yeah, you know what. Now, release your hands from behind your head and just sidle up a little closer to your blocks, whether it be 2 blocks, one for each foot and one height, 1 story of block high, or whether it be 4 blocks. Bring your feet close into your bum, as close as you can. Some of you might even find you could just hook the end of your heel over the end of the blocks, giving you a little bit more stability. Your arms stretch towards your feet and you lift your bum up. That's simple, isn't it? And then turn the arms out and open the chest. And then we can bounce, tilt, sway, swoop. Of course, we're hydrating the myofascia, which, you know, is an objective hydration of the fluid within the fascia, which I always get the name wrong. I know a lot of people know this better than I do because it's on beauty products. I think it's hyaluronic acid, but you're probably shouting at the screen something that I'm not quite pronouncing it right. But that fluid, we know, is pushed out when you move. When you put pressure on a muscle from another muscle or from other tissue like bone, and then as you release that pressure, the fluid rushes in, always in a greater quantity. And that increased quantity of fluid means that the body flows, everything flows. You get what's called glide. Yogis understand something more, that glide in the body is glide in the mind. The mind gliding is what we call non-attachment. The mind gliding is what we call non-attachment. Start coming down like an autumn leaf floating down. Glad to say that autumn's quite a long way away. I do love autumn, but my favorite is spring, although it's not quite coming, but you know, kind of is. Take a few deep breaths and lift your feet up. Well done. Lift your head. See if you can reach. Oh, it's quite hard for a foot, right? And then head back down. We're going to push that leg, and you can use a belt initially if you want, so that the leg comes to the side of the ribs. So you're pushing it down. It doesn't matter at all if the body rolls. That's fine. You're breathing into it, really very deep compression that will cause very deep hydration of lots of areas of the back, not least the lower back. So take breath, jaw soft. Even the eyes can have a quality of softness. Okay, super. Release. Both feet down, catch your breath, catch your breath, catch your breath. Let them flow, let them flow, let them flow. And hey ho, and up she rises. The other leg. Take hold of the foot. Sorry if you're now singing that song. At least one of you is, I'm sure. Yeah, I thought so. And then again, the other foot can lift off too. And again, a psychophysical, respiratory melting as the leg may push down a little on the outside of the ribs. The body cannot release without the mind releasing, you know, so that's important to understand. Breath comes and goes, the eyes are soft, the brain is soft, the jaw is soft, the tongue is soft. Face is relaxed. Okay, good, great. Let's release nice and easy. Feet down and then roll over onto your side. We're going to squat, and I'm going to give you a few options. One option for squatting is a sort of cheaty great, sitting on a stack of blocks. So you can literally just use the same stacko blocks, and you can sit on them, and there you are, squatting, right? Another way is to put blocks underneath your heels, and of course you can have lower blocks, you know, with the squatting, or you can have blocks underneath your heels if the heels rise up. And then there's also a blockless version too. In some versions, it can be nice to bring the hands to a sort of prayer position, like I've got here, and breathing through the nose. So however you get your squat in, then squatting is good. It's a good thing to do. It's very good for tensions, to reveal and release tensions in the back, the erector spinae group, for example, in the pelvis, the muscles between the tailbone and the pubis, and in the breath as well, and in the breath. So as a result, it can really help with plantar fasciitis, which itself can cause enormous tensions in the legs and in the back. So this pose, even if it's challenging, in a way, especially if it's challenging, is something I recommend you do every day, but you could have Sunday off if you want. Okay. Or Saturday, you know. Depends, doesn't it? I think if you're Jewish, it's going to be a Saturday. If you're Christian, it's going to be a Sunday. If you're neither, any day you want. If you're a Muslim, Friday. If you're not, none of those, any day you want. Okay. For me, it's such a great pose. It's one I very much would like to stay in a long period of time. Very beneficial. But not everyone likes it as much as I do. So we'll come out calmly and bring ourselves to a seated position, not on blocks, and then hold our big toes. This is Ubhaya Padangushtasana. Ubhaya, both. Make sure you're not to the back of the mat, because we don't want to fall off the mat. Lean back, great for a buttock massage, and they're not easy to ask for and not lead to any kind of confusion or complication. So you have to often do them yourself. And you can move this way or that. And of course, sometimes it feels like you want to extend a leg. That can be part of it. Or both, or neither. Or one at a time, or keep both bent. The thing that's universal is lightness in the lumbar for everyone, which has to be accompanied with lightness in the mind, as already clarified. So breathing easy, breathing honest, breathing natural, lightness in the lumbar, calmness in the mind. Soft jaw, soft throat, soft tongue. Ubhaya, both, Pardangushta, big toes. So we're holding both big toes. Really good. Okay. Come down when you're ready. Probably now sitting on a block, almost certainly, but not necessarily, just most people will. And then, or two blocks, and then the legs over to one side, quite simple. And then the top leg up and over the bottom leg. And then the lifting and the shifting, 1 foot back, 1 foot forward. And a tremendously beneficial stretch for the IT band. Some of you will feel the iliotibial tract or band, which again can express tensions that are themselves the results of assumptions that our nervous system is making on the basis of what has happened, or what on the basis of what has happened, we react in certain ways, presuming, it will happen again. And then that conditions our world, the way we behave, conditions how our world responds back to us. And then that conditions further behavior. And this is called the law of karma. And it is the law of karma that yoga is trying to lift us out of. So moving left, moving right, moving forwards, moving backwards, massaging it in. Until the breath is flowing. And this version of Gomukhasana is really, can potentially, I hope anyway for you, that it's got the potential to release a lot of tension and a lot of the assumptions that cloud our view of things, how things really are. While we have any preconceptions, while we're attached to anything at all, our vision of the way things are is obscured. We can only receive things as they are if we are empty completely, aka open completely. So keep breathing, keep letting go, keep moving in ways that, massagey and absorbing. And this is one I could so happily just, stay in and move and massage in. But seeing as there's a low-flying aeroplane, or is it a helicopter? Helicopter. You probably should do the second side, but helicopters, there it is. Sorry, you couldn't see it. There it went. Over to the second side when you're ready. So that I always get a helicopter to come past and just tell me, side 2. It had a big flag behind it. Side 2, it said, legs over to second side. That's what happens when you've got infinite amounts of money. You can just do stuff like that. Top leg up and over the bottom leg, and then 1 foot back, 1 foot forward. Breathing through your nose to play. Eyes soft, brain soft, throat soft. Again, massaging it in. Moving left, moving right, moving forwards, moving backwards, massaging it in. Eyes soft, jaw soft, brain soft, tongue soft. All about the breath, isn't it, yoga? So if that's going well, if that's expressive and releasing, then your movements are the right movements, right? And when you understand yoga, poses don't get boring at all. You can lose yourself in them. Okay. However, I could only afford one helicopter, so I have to bring myself out of the pose and you the same. I suggest using a support for your back because we're going to bring the soles of the feet together and the knees apart. A block behind your back, between your back and the support. It could be your sofa or armchair or wall. Of course, you can also do it without your back supported. It's just much nicer with the back supported. So I would, I would sort of bother moving if I were you, if you can. For me, I could go back, but the blinds behind me, I'm not sure they're strong enough, so I won't. But if you can, then I would. You can hold your feet, or bring a belt around the feet and hold that, or simply rest your hands on your legs. You can probably tell that I'm moving. So again, for reasons discussed previously, hydration, melting, breath release. Melting, hydration, breath release. Now, I always think the longer you stay in this pose, which is often called Baddha Konasana, but also called Bhadrasana, I often think the longer you stay, the better. But of course, that's particularly true if you're in a meditative mode. Okay, well done, everyone. Although it's great to stay, and I've often mentioned this before, that one of my favorite classes I ever went to in terms of the way I felt afterwards was a class run by my friend who I haven't seen for a decade probably now or more, David Ronchetti. He had us in this pose for half an hour. Amazing. Such a good feeling. But we're going to come out, as I said, nice and easy, and we're going to stretch our legs out and probably use a belt, possibly use a block. Stretch your legs out before we do anything else, however, and give yourself a little energy bar. And then we'll go into further detail about what we're going to do and whether or not to use a block. We ascertain block use basically by sitting and drawing the buttock flesh out and back. And then when you sit up, if you find your lower back has a natural lordosis, it naturally draws in, then terrific, don't use a block. But if it doesn't, if it feels like it's drawing out, then sit on a block for sure. However, in this particular posture, we're going to move the block so it's not like this, but it's drawn back on the side, on one side, right? So it's drawn back on one side if you're sitting on a block. Now that will allow for our foot to come back in a minute. So if I were sitting on a block, I'd be drawing this leg back that's the same as the side of the block that I've drawn back. So if you're sitting on a block, draw the leg back that's the same as the side of the block that you've drawn back, and bring the foot wherever it comes to. Now this could be on the opposite knee, or further up on the opposite thigh, or even to the top of its own thigh, and its fingertips on the floor, lifting the body and turning it to face the outstretched leg. Eyes soft, brain soft, throat soft. Now we take the belt, the pata, yoga pata, and we're going to bring it around the foot. Now, I'm going to presume your belts are not done up. If they were done up, we could talk about another instruction, but I'm going to undo mine so that we can all have the same starting point. Just to bring the belt like that. We pull gently on the belt to drive the back of the body in and make the front of the body a temple, or particularly the central channel. So our idea of yoga is to be non-dualistic or centered. And because we are practitioners who are not overly stuck in the head, we're people who learn viscerally. That's what yogis are, people who learn physically with their bodies. When we talk about a center or being centered or in the middle, it makes a lot of sense to feel that physically. So this is what the middle or the central Madhyanadi channel is all about. So Shumna, Madhyanadi, Avadhuta, whatever you want to call it. Breath, 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 breath. And it's marvelous to just stay worshipping the goddess who lives in the central channel by making space for her. Now, what is the goddess who lives in the central channel? Because that just sounds a bit creepy, perhaps. But she's intelligence and life force, consciousness itself, in the form of energy, just personified as a goddess. Because if you give her space, she really gives you everything back. Sometimes people find after a while of just focusing on their space in the central channel that, of course, the hamstrings do begin to release, and it might feel more comfortable if the pelvis is tilted forwards to keep up with that and tilt the spine forwards too. It's not something you or I should be doing or overvaluing. What matters is the goddess worship of the central channel, and everything else will happen without you. If the pelvis does start tipping, visualization of a melting of the tensions really helps. The tensions in the breath. And it may be that some people hold the foot without the belt, some people hold the sitting up tall and light. It's not that you limit yourself to one or the other, you just listen and respond. That's all. This is Janu Shirshasana, which is extrapolated from a pose we find in early Hatha texts. The bent knee, by the way, should be very, very soft, psychophysical soft. Okay. Wherever you are, release. Good job. Stretch your leg out, bring it out with some care, and give it a rub down. Around the knee, around the buttocks. Breathe through your nose. Draw the buttock flesh out and back. And similarly with the other leg. So the leg turns out, you bring your foot back so it comes to the inner thigh of the opposite leg, or even in some cases of its own leg. And then fingertips on the floor, breathing through the nose. And for me, there's so much in this station. There's so many releases I can feel into with the breath. Releasing the knee, releasing the adductors, releasing the buttock, releasing the shoulders, releasing the chest, releasing the breath, releasing the face, releasing the diaphragm. And then we can so calmly take the belt around the ball of the foot and pull on the belt, driving the back of the body gently in and the front of the body up. No breath retention other than that which is Kevala Kumbhaka rather than Sahita Kumbhaka. Sahita Kumbhaka is intentional. We first find this distinction between Sahita and Kevala in the Dattatreya Yoga Shastra, which tells us that that the Kevala Kumbhaka is essentially spontaneous pause that just happens sometimes. It seems to last forever. It happens often in meditation. And that the Sahita Kumbhaka in these early texts is a form of Nadi Shodhana, breathing through alternate nostrils, or literally nerve cleansing. Remember, if you're moving the hamstring, like massagey movements, the hamstrings definitely will become more hydrated, and they'll definitely loosen, and some of the extraneous myofascia will definitely melt. And the yogini who's acutely and deeply listening responds to that in a meditative manner. In a meditative manner. Breath is everything. All about the goddess channel. So there's a deep degree of santosha, very deep degree of santosha, contentment, which makes us feel like we're a plant that's soaking up water, a thirsty plant that's drawing water up into its cells, and every plant cell becoming more firm, and the plant looking more lively, Come on up, nice and easy. Well done, gang. No rush. Take it easy. And of course, stretch out the legs again. Give yourself a little rub down. It could be vigorous or otherwise. Energy bath, or whatever kind. Just as long as it's effective. That's all we're looking for. And then we're going to come into Adho Mukha Svanasana. That's down face dog, isn't it? So we start on hands and knees. We're going to have a little stretch of the plantar fascia, very beneficial. So tuck the toes and just push back to the heels. And then what really makes it effective isn't just the challenge of the stretch, but that we're giving to the challenge of the stretch. That's, the two stepping stones of yoga that I've discussed many times. The simple formula. First stepping stone is having experienced any rich experience of any kind, a kiss on the cheek, sunset pouring into the eyes, the taste of melting chocolate on the tongue, or the stretches and compressions of yoga postures. And the second stepping stone is giving. Without that second stepping stone, you're just on a stone in the middle of a fast-flowing river. You've got to take the second one, and from there, it's natural to step off into the far shore, which is our direct and complete experience of interdependence. So if you get what I'm saying, then you're happy here, stretching your toes meditatively. Breath is expressive. When we're ready, we're going to lift up the bottom. Ready for Adho Mukha Svanasana. So pad the pause, stretch up through the armpits to the groins in repeated waves that just keep going. There's inner armpit, outer armpit, all the way up to the groins. Inner armpit, outer armpit, all the way up to the groins. Super. That'll do, won't it? That's enough. Come down. Sit, kneeling. If your knees are tight, don't forget the block between the heels and buttocks. Although you'll need extra blocks ahead of you if you've got a block between the heels and buttocks. So here's me with a block between my heels and buttocks. And then I'll show you the kind of support you might need ahead of you. So I would recommend something like that. If you've got a block between the heels and buttocks and you come forwards slowly, you might even have more height actually, like that. And breathe easy. So, we're trying to keep the weight back. And make any further adjustments you need or want to. Of course, it may be that the body comes down lower. You want to keep the spine open. It's particularly important to have these lifts ahead of you if you've got one under your bum. So I've got one under my bum just to sort of show you, because it's more straightforward without a block. Obviously, it's nothing to think about other than melting as you move. Okay. Come up slow. Come up easy. Forward down. We're going to come into our final pose already. If that clock that I'm looking at is correct. I wish it wasn't. It seems too early. Which is Shavasana. I'll check this other clock. It is Shavasana time. So make sure you lay yourself down. And it's a very important pose, not to underestimate it. It's in this very important text, the Dattatreya Yoga Shastra. A very important pose indeed. So make sure you lay yourself down with all the care and respect. Make sure you've got head support if your head tips back. And that you've got a blanket on, that can be nice. Yeah, so really take care. We don't want the legs too wide in this pose, and we do want the arms quite generously placed, actually. So there should be a feeling of spaciousness. And taking care all the way down into the pose. We scoot the shoulder blades under, palms up, chest buoyant. The eyes can be closed. And as the eyelids close over the eyeballs, you might feel at first the eyeballs moving around underneath the eyelids as thoughts move this way and that. Gradually, the light pressure of the eyelids begins to calm the restless eyeballs down. And as they realize that we're not going to be reaching out or grasping or following any of our habit patterns, slowly, obsessive thinking begins to chill out, like a toddler, having a bit of a moment, but there's nobody reacting or over, and they're just calming down. It's like it blows itself out, As this begins to happen, there's a release that we feel through the optic nerve, through to the occipital lobe of the brain at the back. And we feel the back of the skull. We feel the muscles around the atlas and the axis at the top of the neck, where the neck and the skull meet. We feel a softness spreading through the muscles around the spinal column, right the way through to the tail, inclusive. we feel the pelvic floor buoyant, alive, conversational, powerful, connected to the breath, connected to the heart. And from that point of the pelvic floor, energy moves up through to the navel, which releases and breathes. From there, it moves up to the heart, which opens slowly and naturally, like a lotus flower in the sun. And the sun is the energy that's moving up through it, to it. The chest widens and softens. Breath deepens. The pit between, or the middle point of the collarbones, the base of the throat softens. The throat itself softens as energy moves up and purifies our speech faculty. A speech faculty being purified so that our speech becomes harmonious with reality, which makes our speech expressive rather than descriptive. It becomes expressive. Energy continues to move up until it reaches a space that roughly correlates with the eyebrow center, the Ajna chakra, the command center, Ajna. In some regions of South Asia, pronounced Agnya. And from that command center, energy releases up through little blockages from there up to the crown of the head, the Nirodhika, the blocker, the Ardha Chandra, the half moon, and eventually to the crown of the head, which opens like a lotus flower, or it feels like energy opens, and it feels like the roots of the lotus are at the pelvic floor and the flower is at the head, and all of the universe is in us, and we are in all of the universe. One. Om. Now you can lay as long as you want, and it's beneficial to do so. But if you feel, or when you feel that it's time to move, we're going to wiggle the fingers and toes. And that might not be now. That could be in 5 minutes, 10 minutes. Those movements of the toes and fingers will migrate into organic, natural stretches. Maybe rubbing the eyes or hand through the hair. And that will migrate into bending the legs, scooting the buttocks under, and taking a deep breath to release the lumbar fully. That will migrate to rolling onto the left with knees up, and then it will migrate to rolling onto the right. So this can be happening now, but it can be happening, in 5 minutes, 10 minutes. But do make sure this is the way that you come out when you do. Finally, one will come up from the side. If you are remaining laying on your back, you can just hear this internally, or if you've sat up, you can bring your hands to your heart. It's the transference of merit. So you can agree with it with an Om after or at the same time as my Om. May any merit gained in our acting in this way go to the alleviation of the suffering of all beings. Om. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for coming. Love you so much. May you be happy and well and free of mind-created suffering. Mwah.